Alright, this video is why I hate Toronto still, after all these years of not living here. It keeps on coming up, folks. Every time I come here, I'm so glad when I'm leaving. I'm always really excited when I come, but later on, after a couple days, the emotional reality of this place sets in. What kind of city this is, and how the energy all culminates into this emotionally repressed place where, I don't know. I like the city. I like the people. I don't like the emotional environment that they're forced to interact in. I don't like this communication style, this passive-aggressive sort of British colonial vibe. I don't like how everybody here is forced to dampen their self-expression emotionally. It's really... And I don't like how that was forced on me as a child, because it's not me. I'm a direct communicator, passionate and emotional, and I've always been like that. So... here we are again, folks, 5:45 in the morning. I'm walking to get coffee. Thought I'd answer this question from Jacob in Slovakia, my cousin there. How's Toronto treating me? Well, it treats me like somebody who doesn't understand me. And don't worry, you might think all of a sudden, man, this guy needs therapy, and yes, I do. It's booked for about 4 hours from now. So, because I want to unpack this stuff, and maybe I can make a before and after video, but why I still hate Toronto is the topic of this one. I grew up here in a very nice neighborhood, and I always felt like a weirdo. The neighborhood... well, this is one of the neighborhoods I grew up in. I'll explain in a second, but the neighborhood where I lived with my parents, slept every night, of course, was Rosedale Moore Park, where the old money Anglo-Saxon people lived. And those were the people I grew up among, and it was like really an interesting experience that shaped my worldview in a lot of ways, but as a child I felt like an outcast there, completely. I mean, we didn't live there because I'm coming from, multi-generational wealth. Yes, I do have some Austrian aristocratic heritage somewhere in my family, in my blood, whatever, but my family, after World War II, became refugees from Slovakia. Anyways, so basically, I grew up there because my Canadian grandmother, so I'm 1/4 Canadian, 1/4 Ukrainian, and half German from Slovakia, or Austrian from Slovakia. That's the rough breakdown of my heritage and genetics. My Canadian grandmother somehow managed to buy this house when the prices were cheap in that neighborhood. St. Clair and Mount Pleasant, for those of you who know the city. Most people who grew up in Toronto don't know my neighborhood exists. And I've never been there because it's hidden away. Yeah. So my grandmother Chloe was basically the one who bought the house there with her, at the time, Greek second husband, who she married after the Ukrainian first husband, who was my grandfather. So she was a weirdo, because for Canadian people to want to marry, like these Eastern European, Balkan type men, that was very strange. And so I grew up there in that neighborhood because of her. Because somehow managed to do it. And I also spent a lot of time in this neighborhood, in an apartment building which is kind of visible from this shot, where my grandparents from Pressburg, Bratislava lived. And so between the two worlds, there was a vast amount of difference. My grandmother, Chloe, was a weirdo, eccentric lady who was actually ethnically Canadian, 12 generations or whatever. And my two other grandparents who raised me, Matthew or Matthias or Mate, whatever language. Mate is Slovak, Matthias is German, Matthew is English. We called them all three, and his wife, my grandmother Vera. They lived there. So I grew up between this neighborhood where I was raised by my grandparents and viewed the world through their immigrant lens. The immigrant refugee from war-torn Europe, settled in Canada, never really loved the place, didn't find that they resonated with the place, but this was an easy and safe place to live after the communists took over the place where they grew up. And then my grandmother Chloe, who was some sort of eccentric outcast from Cornwall, Ontario, moved to the city when she was younger and married a Ukrainian who left when my mother had a baby with him. My mother was 3 when they divorced, and so the Ukrainian side was not a factor growing up. Apparently my Ukrainian grandfather would always send birthday cards to my mother until she married a German or Austrian or whatever you want to call us. Slovak German is what I usually go with. German from Slovakia. And so these two worlds, the rich-ass Anglo-Saxon neighborhood and all of that lovely immigrant stuff. Despite being in the center of the city, I would describe the neighborhood I grew up in as suburban. The rich-ass Anglo-Saxon old money place, and this is very urban, as you can see, this neighborhood called the Annex. So between the two worlds, I had two personalities. One of them was the loving European, emotionally direct, that one. And the other one was the eccentric sort of outcast in the rich-ass neighborhood, sort of together. And I walk the world to this day with these two sort of personalities, these two sides of myself. One of them who feels so at home here in Canada, speaks with a commanding sort of upper middle class / even upper class manner, because I grew up around those people and I am able to command authority with my language in the manner that they do it. And then but my grandmother from there was the outcast, the eccentric lady. And then, on the other hand, this immigrant thing who will never fit into Canada because I just am different in the way I express my emotions. And so at the age of 25, I traveled Europe solo every year from the age of 20, so 2003, I would always go to Bratislava, Slovakia, catch up with my family there, and then head further into wherever it was, Croatia, Poland, Czech Republic, all those countries, Budapest. And then for the first time, I discovered Serbia in 2006, and this was a place that was friendly, open, willing to talk about history, because Slovakia and Austria don't really enjoy talking about history, and those are the two countries where my history comes from, the living history that was passed on by my family that really likes to talk about history. So Serbia was a place that spoke English, was really eager to get to know me and show me their country, so I ended up moving there in 2008. And then after 3 months, my Canadian grandmother died, and I had to come back and help my parents with that. And thus started the 3 years of 2008 to 2011, where I was living half in Belgrade and half in Toronto, where I really got to know the difference of the societies and why I could not fucking live in this city anymore. Even though I made the coolest party in town with my band, which was starting at the time, the first lineup of Worldly Savages. We made the Wild East party, which brought the Balkan craziness to Toronto. I wasn't happy with that because it wasn't the true Balkan craziness I had in my life in Belgrade, because I was living half the time in Belgrade. And in 2011, 15 years ago, to this month, I decided I'm moving to Europe and I'm never coming back. And that's what I did. I haven't been here for more than 2 weeks a year since 2011, living in England, in Serbia, lots in Serbia, lots and lots more in Serbia since 2011, and continuing to this day. Last year was 3 months, and now I live in Thailand as a complete, total Farang gringo. So what does it feel like when I come back here? It feels kind of sad, because I see people who stayed here in the same emotional patterns that I felt trapped by. I'm not trapped by them. And the first day I'm always on fire. Luckily it was my mother's birthday on Sunday, and I was on fire with the full activation of my Serbian Balkan emotions, able to share that with the friends and family and actually say that I'm doing great. Then the next day, on Monday, with the hangover of that party, the emotional reality of this place set in. And I started to feel this sadness of the culture that I left, the inhibitions in me, the reserved nature of Canadianness that still gets triggered when I'm here and still follows me around the world inside myself and makes me feel sad and lonely and less able to connect with people than I would like. There's that part inside of me that still lives inside of me, and that's why I'm doing the parts work therapy session with the internal family systems later today. So yeah, this city is not a bad place to live if you have the right mentality, but my mentality, the way I grew up, split between this urban immigrant sort of environment and this eccentric family in the old money neighborhood where we didn't fit in or whatever. With my mentality, you know, and the third thing I would mention is I was raised by my father, who was born in Austria. He moved when he was a child, and he grew up in the 60s and 70s and was working in the music industry. And that exposed me to the world of rock and roll, which was a whole world of emotional expression that's based on freaking emotional expression that opened up a world that made me want to be a musician and travel the world with my music, which I have done. So I'm grateful for the whole story. I'm grateful for everything. I'm grateful for being able to start with tech and music in this city. It was good to me to start my career as a computer technician, to learn about business, to learn about music, encounter, be in a world city. It's like a B or C tier world city. And I don't know, it was good to me. I like the story, but we need to do some adjustments still, because when I get here, I feel this unconscious sort of like, I don't belong here, I don't like it here, I need to get out. And I'm waiting for my flight on Saturday, but I'll do this session today with the internal family systems and see if I can talk to some of these demons. And that's how I feel today, folks. That's the update for today, and maybe I'll film another one of these before I leave, but that's what it is for today. All right, catch you guys later.